Welcome to this week's Ancient History News. My headline story is about the discovery of a unique feature in a Neolithic house in Denmark. I then discuss a rather unusual megalithic necropolis in Spain, where twice as many female as male skeletons were found. And I look at a new study into the late Bronze Age collapse in the Eastern Mediterranean. Stone-paved cellar discovered under a Neolithic dwelling in Denmark. The construction of a railroad on the Danish island of Falster has uncovered the remains of a Neolithic dwelling with an unusual feature. Archaeologists from the Museum Lolland Falster and Aarhus University excavated the site called Neolithic 3 and published their work in the journal Radiocarbon. The site belonged to the Funnel Beaker culture, who arrived in Scandinavia around 6,000 years ago, bringing agriculture with them. That was also the time that megalithic dolmens and the first houses were built in the area. The location of the dwelling is slightly elevated, which would have given it a good view of the surrounding area and also meant it wasn't affected by flooding from bogs and streams. Archaeologists discovered that the house had two construction phases and was built in a funnel beaker style known as the Mosby type. It had interior posts supporting a double-span roof. The first construction phase incorporated 38 of these posts, whereas the second construction phase used only 35. Its floors were made of compacted loam, which consists of soil, sand, and clay. More than 1,000 artifacts were recovered from the site, including flint tools, pottery sherds, and fossilized sea urchins, and these were all found in or around the sunken paved feature. They could have been placed there intentionally, but it's also possible that they ended up there accidentally. Researchers were surprised by the discovery of the sunken stone-paved feature, since it resembles a cellar, something not expected in a Neolithic dwelling. This feature has been radiocarbon dated to between 3080 and 2780 BCE during the first phase of construction. The second phase took place sometime after 2800 BCE. If the sunken feature was a cellar, then it was likely used for the storage of agricultural produce, a significant advancement in technology at that time. The researchers also found 7 rows of post holes that probably contained an exterior fence for defense or for keeping in domestic animals. However, rather strangely, the fence dates to between 3600 and 3500 BCE, so several hundred years earlier than the first phase of construction of the house. This means that whatever it was used for, it was not related to the dwelling, but does show that the area was important to the Neolithic inhabitants of the region over a long period of time. Megalithic necropolis in Spain found to contain twice as many women as men. Between 2015 and 2019, 9 of 19 graves at the megalithic necropolis of Panoria in Spain were excavated and revealed collective burials containing 55,000 human skeletal remains. The necropolis was first used 5,600 years ago and remained in use for 1,500 years. A new study carried out by the Archaeology Research Group of the University of Tübingen and the GEA Research Group of the University of Granada has revealed that these previously excavated burials contain twice as many women as men. The study has now been published in the journal Scientific Reports. It used new bioarchaeological methods to identify chromosomal sex from DNA and to analyze the protein amelogenin found in tooth enamel. Overall, twice as many women as men were found to have been buried in these particular graves, but in the juvenile demographic, the disparity was even more pronounced, with 10 females to every male. Such a sex bias is sometimes found as a result of conflicts or migration. However, in the necropolis of Panoria, the sex bias was found in all the graves excavated so far, and for the entire time that the burial site was in use, which shows there must have been a persistent social reason behind the disparity. One explanation could be that the burial groups were based on matrilineal descent. This means that the graves were centered on the maternal line, with men moving outside of the family and joining other kin groups, a practice called male exogamy in anthropology. On previous videos, I've also discussed Neolithic burial monuments, which were based on patrilineal descent. In at least one example I read about, a female relative was found in a grave with the family she had joined at a site some distance away from the necropolis where her father and brothers were buried. New study models what may have caused the late Bronze Age collapse. From 1200 to 1100 BCE, sophisticated late Bronze Age societies in the Eastern Mediterranean suddenly collapsed, and there have been many competing ideas over the years as to why this happened. Why did so many civilizations that were connected to one another by trade and diplomatic relationships find their rich economies and social hierarchies disintegrating? Many cultures were affected, including Mycenaean Greece, New Kingdom Egypt, Cyprus, Assyria, the Hittite Empire, Babylonia, Canaan, and Ugarit. In the Aegean, the palace economy that had characterized the Mycenaean and preceding Minoan cultures fell apart and was replaced with simpler, village-centered socio-political structures. That period used to be referred to as the Greek Dark Ages, but this term is no longer popular amongst scholars because what happened during that time is now actually pretty well understood from the archaeological record. Experts have put forward a number of hypotheses as to what brought about the relatively sudden change in Eastern Mediterranean societies during the Late Bronze Age, and these have ranged from climate change and natural disasters to societal problems and an invasion by the Sea Peoples. However, it's generally accepted that a combination of factors most likely caused this massive disruption. But if a combination of factors did cause a collapse, it's still not clear exactly why. Could it be possible that links in the network between the Eastern Mediterranean civilizations failed and that this then led to societal collapse? A new study models the late Bronze Age Eastern Mediterranean civilizations and the connections between them to see if link failures are what may have caused the collapse. It also asks the question, are civilizations destined to collapse? During the Late Bronze Age, around 175 exchanges and 28 polities existed in the Eastern Mediterranean. These have been determined from archaeological remains and texts. Exchanges included the trade of goods, marriages, diplomatic relationships, and war. The tin trade was hugely important in facilitating connections between different polities and also led to the exchange of foods with Central and South Asia. Towards the end of the Late Bronze Age, there was a distinct shift in regional climatic conditions, with the Eastern Mediterranean becoming drier and colder. This has been determined from analyses of lake sediments and stalagmites in caves. These climatic changes likely caused major disruptions to food supply and sea travel and were the trigger for the overall collapse that ensued. The research team modelled the political and trade relationships between the 9 most important regions of the Eastern Mediterranean during the Late Bronze Age and also added a 10th node, the city of Ugarit. Political ties are reciprocal, so are referred to as undirected links and include defence pacts as evidenced by treaties and friendly relationships. The commercial links show trade flows between the nodes, including pottery, metal, glass, beads, and ivory. These are considered as directed links. 4 levels of strength were identified for these trade flows. In the analysis, the team reduced the number of connections by considering only commercial links with strength levels of 3 and 4. The hypothesis that a node failure led to link failures, which then negatively influenced the node at the end of the link, was tested in the study. Although it's known that these late Bronze Age societies eventually collapsed, it's not clear in which order this took place, so any of them could have initiated the link failures that led to disintegration. The team found that if one node is removed in 8 out of 10 cases, the network would have remained stable. However, if mainland Greece or the Hittites are removed, then the network is damaged by 11%. By removing 2 nodes, this only causes network damage in 18 of the 45 resulting scenarios. However, only 3 scenarios cause massive destabilization of the network. For example, if both Egypt and Ugarit are removed, only 3 stable nodes remain. If either the Hittites and the Egyptians or the Hittites and Ugarit are removed, then the whole network disintegrates. Almost all scenarios where 2 or 3 nodes are removed completely collapses the network. Comparing the stress tests with the archaeological and textual evidence, the researchers suggest that both Ugarit and the Hittite Empire collapsed at the same time, leading to the disintegration of the whole network. It's known that Ugarit did endure famine and then an attack by unknown invaders. The Hittite Empire also experienced famine before the capital city of Hattusa was abandoned and destroyed for an unknown reason. After the late Bronze Age collapse, the region eventually recovered. The alphabet, a much easier system of writing, was standardized by the Phoenicians at this time and became widely used as a result of their influence in the Mediterranean. At the same time, iron replaced bronze as the preferred metal, ushering in the Iron Age. The sudden change in climate probably undermined the strength of the nodes within the network before a series of events broke them down further, and it seems likely that the fall of Ugarit and the Hittite Empire was instrumental in the disintegration of other societies in the network. In the modern world, such cascading effects could also take place within the complex networks that we have built. However, as the authors of the paper point out, we have the advantage of hindsight by analysing such similar situations in the ancient past, and we are also able to model such disruptions and plan for them. That's it. Thank you for watching. I just want to say a big thank you to my patrons and channel members for all of your support, and I'll see you next time.